Hey, I want to kind of show how I do this fairly common task of splitting up an audio file full of different takes into individual files where you can randomly trigger containers or random playlists in your middleware. So I'll just show you what I mean before I go and do it. It just takes a moment to do this. Make sure my snap is turned on. Make sure these are childed to the parent track. Select them, name the parent something for now, and then boom, they are ready to be exported. And I would do that by bringing up my export dialog, and you can see that they're ready to be exported based upon their region name, which is the region wildcard, and I can go ahead and render them. And that's it. And they would then, for me, they would go to across the Google Drive, and they would be on the cloud, and then they would be accessible on multiple machines. So yeah, just to kind of take you through that process, and just to show you as well that it will recolor them every time, which is really handy when you have a lot of different track blocks on one project. But yeah, I really like this kind of workflow for me. It kind of gives me flexibility that I like, because I don't always do it like this, but I just do know that I can do it in this way if I need to. So yeah, I'll just kind of go through the steps one at a time. First of all, I will use a fairly standard script to just auto trim and split the items, and I can pull up the settings if I shift modify it, but it is just a single hotkey. And I should probably just show you what the hotkey, what the script is. There's multiple scripts that do this in Reaper, but the one that I've chosen is this one, auto trim split. That's fairly straightforward, nothing particularly unique about that one. So I will then remove the snap offsets, because I don't always use snap offsets. Snap offsets are good if you want to essentially line up the peak transient of the file to a grid line, but usually I start off by lining up the edge, because that's based upon the auto split where the silence is defined. And I will then quantize them to grid, and this is a really lovely little shortcut that is an SWS extension, I believe. Yeah. So it's already there, just one action. I don't need to make a custom script. I don't need to combine different actions together, which I would do in this way if I was to do that, because it's just there as one individual action already. So searching the actions properly is great, because it means that you can kind of find what you're looking for. And sometimes you might be making a custom script full of different individual actions, because maybe you're not finding there's an action that already does those things packed together. Just based upon the way they're named, it can be tricky to find them sometimes. But everything you pretty much need is in the SWS extensions that you can download from that website, SWS extensions. Going into Repack and importing repositories, making sure, if you find on the form you've got a link, you can just import it in that way, and keeping your packages synchronized, I would recommend, and making sure to update and synchronize, update Repack itself. Sometimes if you have issues, that's actually the reason why. So yeah, that's a good one to know about as well. Okay, so where are we? So we've quantized our items. Maybe just want to drag them out and extend them, and I might do the alt control kind of fade out, and then the control click, and then they can all be shaped together. Depending on what sort of sound it is, you might go for different kind of non-linear fade outs and all that kind of thing. The next action is the main one that does all the work. And before I run it, I want to make sure that I've got this child-parent track relationship set up, because it's very common that that's just how I work. I always do take the time to set that up in some basic way and to name the parent track accordingly. So let's just call it if it's a footstep, or what our character's name is, and then whatever the surface is, whatever your file naming convention is, because this script will take the name from that parent track and it will embed it into the region, which is really important because the region is what defines the file name on export. If I actually show you, the wildcard will define the file name, and if I actually dry run this, you'll see the file name up here. So yeah, you can set that up differently. It's up to you. But this is the main action or custom action that I have set up that takes a lot of work out of just exporting things in a hurry, because I prefer to spend the time actually doing either the sound design itself using plugins or synthesizers, or focusing on the middleware integration side. I don't really like doing a lot of manual editing if it could be done in a faster way, because it's time consuming. It can be quite time consuming. So yeah, this action, let me just show you in the action is find shortcut. It's on my down key. It's using the render blocks, the free render block script, because I don't pay for, you know, the whole thing. Well, I don't pay for it because it, you know, you can just build this instead of paying for it, because a lot of these sold scripts and actions, you can just recreate them by building your own. If you just kind of have a little play and think what you want Reaper to do, you can build it yourself. So first of all, it will pack the individual files into a cluster, and then it's going to remove the items because it actually groups them, and I don't like that. So I want to have individual control over the files even after it's been packed, because I oftentimes change them after the fact. So I'll remove the items from a group. I'll remove the time selection. And this one's important because I'm using a script later on that is going to rename the regions, and this is really the core of it. It's actually the pack clusters on this one. The rest of it is kind of just setting things up. And this one, I spoke to Edgemeal on the Reaper forum, and he was able to offer up something that I was able to tweak just slightly to ignore other regions, because his script is really great, but it will rename all the regions in your project, whereas I don't want that. So this will only focus on the selected region, and that region selection, of course, is going to be done for us in this list of actions. So it's going to ignore outside the time selection when it renames the regions. So yeah, just going back through, it's going to ungroup the items, clear time selection, because you might have time selection elsewhere or whatnot. And it's going to set that selection to the selected clips, clear the selection of tracks, and it's going to only target the items that you've selected, their tracks. And it will clear all items again and select only the parent track, and select all items on selected tracks in current time selection. So I've kind of gone through this a few times. I could maybe slim this down a bit more. I might have some legacy commands in here from when I was setting it up, maybe the second time. But yeah, it works fine, and it will set the track name from first selected item on the track if I don't select it myself. And I always set it myself, so that doesn't really come into play. And create regions from selected items, notes, and color. So that's what's actually giving the regions. Oh yeah, the last one is actually after it names the regions according to the track, it will make sure that that name is in the item notes, so that I can just see that's just on the parent track. I can just see what I'm doing, and you can just zoom in. I can zoom in anywhere in a timeline, and it's easier to read that than it is to read that. So that's really it in a nutshell. There's a whole lot of different ways of doing things in Reaper, and usually I kind of do something one way, and then maybe after a half a year or so, I just decide to do it a different way and just kind of see if it sits better after a month or two. But yeah, there's lots of different ways of doing things in Reaper, and I hope you found this useful, and maybe it saves you some money of actually buying the whole Render Blocks pack. But yeah, there you go. Thank you.